and then I'll turn it over to Joe. There's our recording. Nice. So I'll do about 10 minutes of announcements, and then we'll turn it over to Joe. So I hope you're all ready for his topic on product management and how that works with Agile. I'm excited to hear that. So I've got all of my board members on today. Megan's here, Chris is here, Jenny was on earlier, and she'll be popping back in later. She had something she had to do real quick, but she'll be popping back in. So if any of you have questions, feel free to reach out to us in chat while we're going through the presentation. We're happy to help you out. Real quick, if any of you have not are signed in with an odd username and don't have your full name on your profile, if you can click the three little circles next to your name, if you hover over your name and click the three circles and select change or rename is what it is. If you can do that and put your full name in, we do track attendance, and we use that for a couple of reasons. Number one, if you want to vote later for our board or any of those decisions, we do have a rule that you had to attend a couple of meetings to be able to vote. So we'll be able to verify that you qualify for voting when we have any voting options out there. And two, if you ever want to turn in a report for SEUs or PDUs or anything like that, we're able to print that report off for you and verify how many meetings you have attended, all of that. So you'll be able to turn those in for SEUs. So please change your name so we can take attendance. Also, if you are not a member or not subscribed to our website, please go out to agileindy.org and sign up for that. There's a link on there for memberships. You can renew your membership and sign up. Membership is free. And what that will do is that'll make sure that you get all the emails for when we post a new speaker. You'll get all the reminder emails that a new speaker session is ready for registration, and our conference is coming up. So you'll be getting emails about our conference soon as well. So make sure you do that if you have not subscribed to be a member. As always, if you have questions, you can send those to info@agileindy.org. And help us promote. This is something that we, especially as the conference gets closer, we like to make sure we're getting our name out on social media. Make sure that we've got a lot of people following us who will know when our speaker call outs go out and our sponsor call outs go out and our ticket sales go up. So if you can tag us at AgileIndy or hashtag AgileIndy on any of your favorite platforms. We also do Instagram as well. We've got an Instagram account I think we don't have out there. LinkedIn, there's actually a group. If you follow, if you search for AgileIndy, you'll find two things. You'll find our company page and you'll find our group page. So make sure and sign up for both of those as well. We are happy to announce things. You'll see announcements go out on those platforms as well for speakers, sponsors, call outs, and all of that as we get closer to conference. And we are recording today's session. So go out to YouTube and you'll be able to search on YouTube for AgileIndy as well and find the recording of the session out there when we're all set. All right. So if any of you are looking for or have some friends or yourself who are interested in trying out your speaking chops, you are welcome to sign up. If you go out to agileindy.org and click on speakers, I believe there's a link out there that says links you to our submittable page, and you can submit a topic and we can add you to our list of speakers. We'll take a look at that. We are actually going to be publishing a call out soon for our speakers for the conference as well. So if any of you are thinking about being a speaker for the conference, make sure and get your abstract ready, your bio brushed off. We'll need, typically the things we ask for are your bio, your abstract, summary of your talk, and your title, and a headshot of the speakers. So get those brushed off and ready to go so you can submit those and we'll be ready to roll. So I mentioned our conference, May 5th, 2023. Mark your calendars for that. We're excited to be doing a conference for the first year in 3 years now, right? We've run our conference since 2013. So we've been doing, this will be our 9th annual conference. Would have been our 10th if we hadn't, or this will be our 8th, right? It would have been our 10th if we hadn't missed those 3 years during COVID, but I don't know whether we should just do a 10-year anniversary or not. I don't know. We've been trying to decide if we're gonna do a theme. Maybe we should do 10 years minus 3 as the theme or something. I don't know. But we're excited to be doing the conference again at JW Marriott. So we're going to be at the big pretty hotel downtown. If we have cut off the volunteers, so we had tons of people sign up to be volunteers, and we appreciate that. So those of you who signed up to be volunteers should have already had a conversation with one of us board members. If you haven't had a conversation or don't know what committee you're on, if you'll give me a ping, you can I'll double check on that. And that kickoff meeting is next week, the 16th, so next Wednesday, where we'll be putting everyone into committees, one of the 4 committees. There are a handful of people who signed up to be day of volunteers. So if you signed up to be a day of volunteer, meaning not on a committee, but you want to volunteer the day of, if we need more volunteers aside from our committee members, we'll be reaching out to you closer to the conference time. So I hope you're all excited and ready to go for that meeting on Wednesday next week. We're excited to get things kicked off and going. So with that said, our speaker today is Joe Ghali. I'll tell you how I met Joe. So my company actually just did a 280 group training a couple of months ago. And I tell everybody, I laugh as the Agile coach at Crow. I hired a product management practice leader about a year ago. So I'm not having to do both of those jobs now. And my product management practice leader, Todd, this was one of his first big jobs, was go get us training on what product management is, right? We've got to introduce the concept of product management to everyone in the company. So I didn't have a hand in picking the trainer or the speaker. I was excited we were doing it, but I tell everybody, I'm like, whenever I get a product management speaker, I'm always nervous because I've had some who understand Agile and understand how product management works with Agile, and some who understand product management but don't understand how it works with Agile. And I was crossing my fingers when we went into this class thinking, I hope this is one of the Agile people. And from the minute Joe started talking, I knew this is my guy. He and I clicked immediately, and the whole time he was talking my language, and I was talking his, and I was super excited and super happy for us to take the classes. So we took the product management, optimal product management class, and our company chose, it's a 4-day class. Our company chose to break it into 8 half days. So we did it over the course of 2 weeks. And it was a great class. So if any of you are ever interested in taking that class, reach out to Joe after this, and I'm sure he can hook you up. So Joe, I'll turn things over to you. And I know you've got a couple of things you wanted to tell some people about your company a little bit before the session. I remember how to stop sharing here. I'm in Teams. Is anybody else in Teams all day now, and then you move to Zoom and you just totally forget what you're doing? All right, there's Joe. Take it away.
All right. Well, that was an awesome introduction, Marcy. I'm very humbled by your words. So that was quite awesome. So my experience. So my name is Joe Ghali. I'm based in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. I've been in product management space for well over 20 years. Worked in a variety of different industries. I was very lucky to be working in Las Vegas in my 20s. And I tell people all the time, I'll never have a job quite as cool as that, because I was part of the What Happens in Vegas Stays in Vegas product marketing campaigns. So, but we all have to grow up. But in my career, I've moved from travel to online publishing at Reader's Digest, where we launched the first Nook title, The Taste of Home and Family Handyman. Then I really spent a good amount of time in fintech at Baird, being a product manager for their online portal. And then I moved on to Generac, where it was IoT. I wanted to try my hand in the IoT space, and then consumer packaged goods. And that's where I became a product coach. I know my title says principal, consultant, and trainer, but I like to look at it like I'm a product coach. I work alongside teams. I try to share my experiences, and I'm, again, like I said, very honored to be here. I do work for a company called the 280 Group, and our motto is we empower product professionals with the knowledge and tools to build products that matter. It's all about being outcome driven. right? Building products, not like a feature factory, but being more focused on what value we can deliver to our organization. Just real quick about 280 Group, soup to nuts. We provide full product management and product marketing solutions. We do everything from coming in and optimizing and learning about your business. We have different trainings. We have an Agile for product management training. We do the whole 9 yards. Think of us as a partner in crime, as a lifelong product coach. And I thoroughly enjoy the discussions that Marcy and I have, even on the side. So let me tell you a little bit about myself. So you may be like, why do I see a picture of Joe and his softball team? And here's the background. Many years ago, I was asked by friends, what do I do when I want to grow up? And I'm like, dude, I'm in my 40s. What do you mean, what do I want to do when I grow up? And it dawned on me. So when I'm not working, I'm a softball coach. I'm a U12 softball coach. I've been coaching both of my daughters ever since they were in T-ball. And it's what I love, right? I love to coach, right? It's not about winning or losing. It's about developing better human beings. It's about life lessons. It's about being better communicators. And so when my friend asked me that question, I said, I've been through the gamut. And if I had this dream job, it would be to be a product coach. And well, lo and behold, Kimberly Clark had that role. And that's kind of how my journey started. But what I learned along the way is whether it's U12 girls softball or product management at an organization, success with products or in sports, it's not about the collection of the individual superstars, right? In most cases, those teams that are successful are the teams that work together. They communicate, they have trust, and most of all, they're vulnerable with each other. And so, one of these days I'm going to write a book, and it's going to say something to the effect of great teams are needed to build great products. I'll be completely honest, I'm a total homer when it comes to the Atlanta Braves. I grew up there, but last year's World Series team, I firmly believe they embodied what it means to be a great team, right? So just like last year's World Series champions, they didn't necessarily have a collection of superstars. They knew how to work off each other's strengths. And what I learned is you need to be vulnerable. You need to work together. You need to have some chiefs, but you need to have some followers behind you kind of pitching in and doing what they do best. Now let's go back to U12 softball. This is how it started last season for Haley's my youngest. This is kind of how the season started. We had our third baseman running over to second to catch the ball because she didn't trust the second baseman. We had outfielders running into the wrong spot because they wanted to play the role of hero. And what was the underlying theme? It was no one knew their roles. There wasn't clarity on expectations. There was a lack of trust, even among your infielders and outfielders. And trust me, they were good. When we were in practice, they were catching, they were throwing, they could hit the cutoff. But for whatever reason, whenever we got into games, it just kind of went by the wayside. And, one thing that I stress is product teams are no different. When I say product teams, I'm talking product manager, product owner. If you have a BA, UX, dev, engineer, what I have learned is even if you have a collection of superstars on your product teams, it doesn't necessarily guarantee success, right? Just as a raise of hands, how many of you been part of a product team that delivered poor performing products where maybe you had superstar talent on that team, right? I bet some of you have been part of that in that scenario. I know Marcy has. So the $1 million question is, how do we get to this state? How do we get this type of collaboration on an Agile Scrum team, right? How do we get there? What needs to change in order to get the team working together? So fundamentally, we got to start with the basics. And so what I would encourage all of you to do is I want you to ask me questions. So Marcy has graciously volunteered to be my moderator. She's going to check the chat window. If there's something you want me to clarify, or you want me to go back, or you have something that kind of pertains to your universe or your organization, just let me know. So when thinking about product management and Agile Scrum teams, I want to start with the basics. And the way that I explain it to a lot of organizations is there's a separation between the problem space and the solution space. When I say problem space, this is the market needs. This is an understanding of the problems to be solved. I talk about my kids a lot. My oldest daughter, I have a 16-year-old who just finished reading To Kill a Mockingbird. And we're talking about the character Scout and her dad Finch, right, Addis Finch. And it was the lesson of you don't really know somebody until you spend a day walking in their shoes. And like my eyes lit, I'm like, Case, that's product management. Like that's what I try to embody with teams that I worked on. Like, do you understand your customers' pain points? Are you empathetic with them? Because ultimately, when we look at roles and responsibilities, I more like to say accountability. As a product leader, I'm accountable to being the who and the why to the table, right? The who and the why. Who are my market segments? Who are my personas? What is my customer journey? Where are they struggling from soup to nuts? You know, how they interact with me, whether it be a tangible product or a digital product. And what I try to emphasize, I know this is at the heart of Agile, is bring to the table the problem, bring the context, and let's brainstorm with our engineering friends to figure out what is our solution going to be. What are our options? And the more that you can bring along your dev team in your journey, the better prepared those individuals are going to be. The more aligned you're going to be, the more trust you're going to have, the better dialogue you're going to have. You know, I'll share a story. I worked in fintech at Baird for many years. And when I got there, it was a struggle for me. Because in my mind, I had what I thought I needed to do. I needed to tell them what to do. I was in business, they were in IT. And whether I realized it or not, I was treating them like short order cooks. Go make me a hamburger. And, you know, they built me a hamburger. But I didn't give them any flexibility, right? I didn't share with them my vision. I wasn't transparent on my roadmap. And over time, what I learned was I needed to be a little vulnerable. And what that meant is I brought them along with me to visit customers. I brought them along with me in my process of building out customer journey maps and building out personas. Because the more that I did that, when it came time to brainstorming, it was magic. It was pure magic from a collaboration standpoint. All right, so I like to, you know, I know the World Series is over, but I always try to relate product teams, Agile teams with baseball players on the diamond. So just work with me on this. You're going to find that there's a lot of parallels. So my contention, my perspective is the product manager is like the catcher for the team, right? What do product managers do? They shape and evangelize product vision and strategy. They research and define, they monitor market opportunities. They collaborate with customers, right? They understand stakeholders and do things like story mapping. They kind of set the stage. A lot of you may not realize this, but some of the best managers in baseball were former catchers. Why? Because what they do is they partner up with the pitcher and they develop a game plan, right? They have a strategy going to each game. They have a strategy going to each series. How do I want to attack the hitters? What are their strengths? What are their weaknesses? What is our plan, right? And they get the infielders and the outfielders aligned. Okay, my job, I'm going to pitch inside. I'm going to come in tight. So what does that mean? I need to bring my third baseman and shortstop to be more pull. I need to move my left fielder so they can get ready to get those fly balls that are going to be hit to me, right? They kind of set the tone for the team. They are looked upon as the leader. They inspire. All right. Any questions over what I've covered so far? I want to take a deep breath and just make sure I'm not flying through this content.
Chris had a question about, or made a comment about, you know, product owner does not equal product manager. And I said, I think Joe's going to get there. Just wait.
I am. No, that's a good question. I'm about to get there right now. All right. So let's go back to this slide right here. Okay, who and the why, what and the how. Product management engineering. from my perspective, Marcy, keep me honest. In the middle is probably the most underrated role on a product team, and that person is the product owner.
Right.
Because they're going to be playing both roles. They're going to be, they're going to ebb and flow based on the needs of the team. All right. So if you think about it, and I'll get to this, actually, I'll just get to this slide. The product owner, what's their job? Their job is to ensure tactics and activities that pull through the strategy, right? They learn, understand, and evangelize the voice of the customer. They shape and prioritize the product backlog and sprint goals. They collaborate with UX and engineering to refine the incremental delivery of valuable features. Right? They understand the team and incorporates the team's velocity and its impact on the burn down.
I'll be honest, Joe, I'm not a baseball person, but when I saw your slides in the preview, I was like, okay, this makes sense, right? Because what I know about baseball is the catcher is the one making the calls at the plate,
Correct.
right? And then the pitcher is the one that's actually executing that call for the team.
Yes.
And I was like, okay, I know enough about baseball to understand this, right?
Exactly.
So I thought it rang for me, and I know very little about baseball. I think a lot of people know my husband was a pro soccer player, so I know zero about baseball. So
yeah, well, so here's a key thing. There is a division of labor, right? I don't want to say responsibility because it sounds like you and only you are responsible for this. I like to think of it as accountability between the product manager and the product owner, and where they come together. That's where the magic happens. When I mentioned that, that's where vision and roadmap, release planning, personas, needs and feature definition, being a customer advocate to your dev team, defect management, positioning. That is that if you look at this Venn diagram, that's where there's that intersection. While you may be responsible for the problem, and while the product manager may be accountable for the tactical day-to-day, they have to work together, right? So to elaborate on this, I'm a big visual person. So all of you, you're all going to become real big knowledgeable in baseball. When I think of a really good product manager, product owner relationship, I think of the relationship of Adam Wainwright and Yadier Molina. So for those who don't know, Adam Wainwright is a pitcher for the St. Louis Cardinals, and Yadier Molina is a catcher. They just made their 325th start together as battery mates. That's a record in baseball. And the reason why I bring this visual is when I think of what that relationship needs to be, this is kind of the mood, right? They're going to work together. They're going to adjust. But you can't be successful on a baseball team if the pitcher is the one just deciding what to throw, because the catcher has no idea what to do, right? You're leaving him hanging, just like on a product team.
And remember, the pitcher isn't even facing the players, right? He doesn't know what's going on second base behind him, right? The catcher sees all of that, right? The catcher sees it all.
Yeah, he is, right? The catcher's letting him know, hey, he may give out a sign to say maybe the second baseman the guy on second base is moving a little bit too far off second base. You may want to fake a move to keep him honest. So again, where the catcher is sitting, he has a view of the whole team behind the plate, right? He may make adjustments in game based on how the team is reacting. I don't want to get too much into the weeds of baseball, but it's about the relationships right here. And I recognize that this is a case in a lot of organizations where maybe you are playing the role of both the product manager and the product owner. This is a reality. I'm not going to pretend like it doesn't happen, because it does, right? And it may make sense where you have to play both roles. And what I would tell you is, if you are a product manager who's also acting as a product owner, then you have a very large set of responsibilities. And on this slide, here's this list of that expanded responsibilities. Most of these have to do with making sure that the dev team really understands what they're working on and why. And that is a very difficult to take on, right? So you have to the key is if you're in this situation, you have to be available to the team to remove any kind of roadblocks, right? You must keep them at maximum productivity, right? You're the one writing user stories, but you have to also be at the same time identifying new ideas and new problems to be solved. So there's some context switching that has to go on, right? And that's really the nuance. One of the things that I encourage individuals that are wearing both hats is be transparent with your leader up front. You know, we talk about, okay, well, how should I spend my time if you really care about how many user stories I'm spending or how many defects? Probably not. But what your leader may care about is how much of your time is in product discovery. Are you allocating enough time to identifying those new items that will one day show up in your product backlog? Because I fell into this trap. I worked on a big project and when I was in fintech, and it was a year-long project, and it was my focus. The problem was when we were done, everyone was kind of looking at me like, okay, Joe, what are we doing next? And it was a mad scramble. Okay, well, what do we have in the backlog? Well, this user story is how many months old? And then you end up not delivering value. That's where there's some of the pitfalls of not making sure you dedicate enough time as a product leader to talking to your customers and identifying new problems to be solved. Because you got to not only keep your sprint backlog bountiful, but you can't really do that unless you're continuously discovering new ideas. And that's, if you ever attend one of my workshops or one of my classes, I talk about dual track Agile, right? Where you have those parallel paths of both continuous discovery and continuous delivery. And that's a tough job for one person to do. All right, one of the most underrated and underappreciated roles on a product team is UX. Now, the role of user experience is critical in any product team and many times gets overlooked. 3 key components, okay? Look and feel, and usability. Think of them as a key stakeholder. I made sure I was tight with my UX person because they're going to provide you direct input, which will help to influence your backlog and your roadmap. They are constantly implementing customer research and emphasizing that and sharing insights from the product team. If you happen to be playing that role of PM and PO, your best friend is going to be your UX person because they could help you with identifying some of those customer enhancements. Right? They can help keep you honest in terms of how much of your work is on big rocks versus customer enhancement work. And that's a juggle. That's a juggle in and of itself in terms of what is that right ratio of work to do. And that's where your UX person can keep you honest. All right, so let's talk about what that relationship looks like between the product manager, product owner, and UX. Again, same concept as I showed you before with the product manager and product owner. There is an overlap. There is, yes, separate accountability. Right? I would never ask a product manager to do wireframes, just like I wouldn't ask user experience to build a roadmap. However, the output of the work you get from UX has a big impact on what you're going to be building in the future. So again, these 3 roles come together to help identify who your personas are going to be, right? You got to bring your user stories to life. You got to have a frame of reference. You got to ask the question, will this user story apply to this persona? And that's where design thinking really comes into play. For those who don't know, design thinking is 2 parts. It's the problem space and the solution space. As product leaders, we want to be bathing in that problem space arena. Any questions? Anything in the chat, Marcy, you want me to answer, or we're good?
Yeah, we're having a little conversation in the chats about who has the ultimate say in what goes in the product. Is it the product owner or the product manager?
It's the product manager.
Yeah, and I was kind of correcting everybody a little bit because I think when we've been in Agile, right, we've been taught that the product owner has, ultimate decision making capabilities, and that's true. Their job is to negotiate priority in the product backlog, right? But why would the product owner ever come up with a feature that he thinks needs to be in the product that the product manager doesn't agree with, right? If the market doesn't need it, why would we build it? And I think
Correct.
I see that happen a lot where the product owner comes up with a feature and it's their idea. They think, well, this is what we should put in the product. And they haven't validated it with the market to find out if the rest of the market or the rest of the users even find value in that feature. Why are you going to waste the dev team's time building it? Why are you going to waste the cost, right? If you haven't validated it in the market first to know that the market wants it. So there was a little bit of chat about that. And I think that's an anti-pattern we see sometimes with product owners, quite honestly. So,
Well, and I see that happening in a lot of situations where they're siloed, where the product manager kind of just goes off and does what they do, and they don't really bring the product owner along on the journey. It's funny we talked about this. In one of my workshops this morning, we were doing the voice of customer. You may remember this, right, Marcy? We're doing the empathy interview, where we go on, we talk to the product or to the persona, and we say, tell me about your journey, right? In this particular case, it was someone was trying to buy a pair of jeans, and they didn't know what the size fit, what they needed. They kept on returning it. And so, two things were, when you're doing that customer visit or that empathy interview, you need someone to take notes, right? Is that an opportunity to bring your dev manager or your product owner with you so they can hear it? Or if you can't do that, you have to do a debrief. Okay, what were the key lessons learned? What were the key insights we got from that empathy interview or that customer visit? Are you immediately sharing that? I know how people interpret the daily stand-up, but we had something at Baird called 16th minute.
right.
And I use that as an opportunity as a product manager to kind of step in every once in a while. I know product managers shouldn't attend daily stand-up, but make an appearance, right? Know that you care. And so I would use 16th minute to share some highlights from that customer visit, because I wanted the team to know what was going on. And heck, if I can share the problems and they want to work with me on ideation, I am all for it, because we're working together towards a common goal. So it took me a while to get there. I'll be completely honest with you. I was always raised, this is your job, you own it, and it doesn't work well. It never ends well in that situation.
I've worked with dev teams that are so far removed from their end user at times, right? That, to have a product manager who would come and talk through something that happened during a focus group with a product, research team, or with a customer. I mean, that would have been the highlight of the dev team's day, right? Because they didn't get to talk to the end users. So it gives everybody a totally different perspective.
So when I talk to a lot of leaders, I get really amped up. Scrum Masters get a bad rap in the world of Agile and product management, and I call him the general. Derek Jeter, shortstop for the New York Yankees, unassuming, but a leader, right? He kept everyone in check. He made sure he was helping the catcher. He made sure everyone was at the right spot. He knew defensive positioning, right? Scrum Masters are the same way, right? Scrum Master keeps the team working at max productivity. Yes, part of the responsibility is facilitating those Scrum events, but they're not your secretary. We've got to move away from that perspective. They're coaches. They're there to make sure that everyone behaves. They're there to make sure that we're following the rules of engagement. We're going to talk about this idea of the team working agreement in a minute, but what they're doing is they're coaching the organization and the team on adopting Scrum and working with the right process. They're ensuring progress is being tracked against the plan. They're removing impediments. They're ensuring team members get help when they're stuck. They gauge velocity. Okay, The last thing I just said, velocity. What's the one thing that gets asked of product managers all the time? When are you going to give it to me?
When will it be done?
When will it be done? And you're never going to go away from that. You're never going to get away from that. Stop pretending like we're going to train stakeholders to never ask us when they're going to get something done. Let's live in reality. Let's at least give them a target, right? And that's where having a really good Scrum Master can help make you look really good. Now the dev team, right? The pizza rule, I think it's the 2 pizza rule, if my memory serves correctly in Scrum. Your dev team consists of 5 to 9 people, and they collaborate frequently with the product owner and Scrum Master. What are some of the traits, right? They're self-organizing, they're self-accountable, they're cross-functional. They may be cross-functional. Maybe you need to bring someone from customer service. So just like this image, here I have Ozzy Albies, he's the second baseman. I have Austin Riley, he's the third baseman. It may be your bench player. They all play a role, and they're all critical to the success of your product. Okay, whether it be your lead engineer or a junior developer, they all play a key role. And the idea here is quality, right? You want to instill quality by adhering to the definition of done, understanding what that means. Again, they play such a key role. Now, one of the biggest challenges is, how do we get everyone working together? How do we have that common ground? Where does that transparency come from? And Marcy remembers this from the training. I firmly believe in this concept of a document or a charter called the team working agreement. Now you have this in Agile, or like your ceremonies and daily stand-up, and take it a notch up. Let's move it from the tactical above, right? So among your product manager, your PO, your UX, your dev, maybe your QA, what are your principles? What's your guiding light? Because I think everyone on this call can agree, what is the one thing we know will happen in the next year? People will come and go on your team, right? Nothing is more impactful to your ability for velocity than new team members coming in and out of your teams. So one way to lessen the agitation or the impact of velocity is, hey, coming into it, what are our principles? What are our ways of working? And so you can do this in PowerPoint, you can do it in Excel. I like to use craft.io as my product management tool. You can use AHA, you can use Product Board. Whatever the template, you want to have something called a team working agreement. Okay, and in its high level, in its essence, you're talking about a little bit more detail on roles and responsibilities. The big one, which gets overlooked all the time, is what's your resource capacity? Not how many devs do you have, but hey, I do 32 story points a sprint. How much of that is dedicated to big rocks? How much of that is dedicated to tech debt? How much of that is keeping the lights on or keeping our customers happy? And then what are those tenets, right? I call it like a service level agreement. My big learning when I was at Reader's Digest was my product owner was getting really frustrated with me because I would say to her, Jess, I want you to build X. I want you to build me a recipe box on tasteofhome.com. What does that even mean, Joe? Right, I'd have it in my roadmap, and I'm like, how long will it take to build this? So I'd explain it to her, I'd have a conversation. And what I learned is, hey, I need to give her and the team some context. There needs to be a little bit of discipline when it comes to identifying new ideas for our team, right? There needs to be some cadence with sharing my roadmap. There needs to be some delegation. You'll see here, hey, I'm going to delegate to the product owner. You own that backlog. You own those sprint goals. Okay. I can only do that if we're like this. Okay. Dev manager, I want you to own tech debt. Tell me what tech debt we need to do. But my expectation is you tell me why we need to do it. Help me sell it. Help me explain it to people. Right? I know we have to do it. I know the value of tech debt. but I can't just tell people we need to do it. I need to explain it to them. Help me in that journey. And can we spread it out? Right? It should never be I'm going to either do product enhancements or tech debt. It should be, how do we do them both? How do we do them asynchronously? So other concepts, right? Other ways of doing it. We can do something called a RACI. I prefer a little bit of a nuance. I call it a DACI. So instead of having multiple people responsible for a task, have one person be responsible, right? That's really the nuance. You should only really have one person. Let me explain this in a little bit more detail. In that DACI chart, right, we talk about things like roadmap. Okay, who owns that? Who is the driver? And in this case, I think this was the technical roadmap, which is why engineering development is the driver. You know, who identifies new features? Okay, in this case, it was me, right? Who's going to understand the pricing? I'm going to run with that, or maybe there's a pricing person. So if you have questions on these templates, just reach out to me. I can work with you or talk to Marcy. I know she can definitely speak to the team working agreement. We had a good chuckle about that. We had training. We had a light bulb moment with the class. But I want to just I'm taking a deep breath. Any questions on the concepts that we've covered thus far? All right. Well, for those wondering, how did our team finish? Well, I tell you what, after a rough start to the year, we ended up finishing second. So this is my youngest daughter, Haley. She's now 13, and she is a first baseman. So she's rocking it, first year first base. But they came together, right? They went out, had breakfast together, ran a tournament. But we kind of got it out there. We had some outfielders, we had some bench players. Hey, bench players, I need you to cheer on. I need you to support your teammates. I need you to pick them up. I need somebody to warm up my right fielder in between innings, right? Everyone's got a role. Like, let's buy into it. Let's own it. Okay, well, so that is the end of my presentation. I did want to make you guys aware that we do have an Agile for Product Management class, a 280 group. And this is not like a Scrum certification. This is more of, as a product manager, how do you work within the confines of Agile? Right? So it's more about like, what is your role? How do you interface with the different ceremonies, right? I could talk for a half hour on sprint reviews and the criticality of sprint reviews, but we'll do that in the class. So let us know if you're interested. It's a newer class. Yours truly gets to teach it, and I'm really excited about it. Marcy, wink, wink. Hopefully we can bring that over to your organization. But I also wanted to let you guys know we have a LinkedIn group. So we'd love to have you guys join us on this group here. So look at the URL. I'm trying to paste it, but I'm having a little bit of difficulty, so I can send it out as a separate note as well. And with that, thank you.
Joe, I'd love to open it up if anyone wants to turn your camera on and unmute yourself. I think Joe did a great job introducing the idea of product management and product ownership and how they work together. I think, quite honestly, from my experience, product management is one of those things that Agile didn't talk about for a long time. And it was one of my big frustrations personally with Agile. And I'll be honest with you, it was one of the reasons, not poo-pooing on any of the governing bodies of Agile, but it was one of the reasons why I shifted personally from Scrum Alliance to Scrum.org, because they actually, Scrum.org actually admitted that product management existed instead of ignoring it. So it's always been a topic that I've always been really passionate about. And I think it's something that a lot of companies that I've worked with struggle to understand the differences, or how to get product owners and product managers to work together, or how they work together. Or there's been a debate in the Agile community on whether product management was even necessary if you had product owners. I'm curious what everybody's thoughts are and what you guys have seen at companies that's worked and hasn't worked. Anyone? So I see Daniel mentioned this is assuming there is a PM, right? And here's what I have found personally. I've seen a lot of companies hire product owners who didn't know how to do product management. And you're missing an element. I'll just say that you're missing an element if you have a product owner who doesn't know how to do product management. I would actually suggest the reverse. I would suggest you hire a product manager who can play the role of product owner if you only have budget to hire one. That's my opinion. Product manager, remember, product owner is a role in Scrum. It doesn't have to be a job title. So their job title could be product manager, and they're playing the role of product owner, right? I've seen that work well. And then to Joe's point, there comes a point in time where your product gets so mature that you have to constantly have the conversation with your stakeholders that at some point I'm going to have to split this role. At some point, I'm going to have to hire a product owner who can keep the team, productive while I go out and do market research with the users, because I can't be in two places at once, right? I know we ran into that at Salesforce. When I was at Salesforce, we had a product manager who was playing the role of product owner, and he was on the road all the time with customers, and which is where he should have been. But we get into our planning sessions and the product owner wasn't in planning. The product owner wasn't at the review meetings. The product owner wasn't coming to the daily stand-up. And the team was meandering around lost because he was going and gathering all this great data, but he didn't have time to communicate back with the team and answer questions. And we eventually ended up hiring a product owner that kind of reported to him. And they would have, he would pass information to the product owner then, and the product owner was able to keep everyone apprised. And the product owner had decision-making capabilities. The product manager was presenting the problem to the team, and the product owner still had decision-making, and they were empowered to make decisions on, well, here's what I think the solution should be. And they were negotiating that between the product manager and the dev team and all of that. And that worked really well, right? I don't know how many of you guys have a similar situation where you've got a product manager that's on the road all the time and not around, or maybe you've got a product owner that doesn't know how to do product management. Anybody raise your hand? We won't tell. I'll turn the recording off now, actually. That reminds me. Turn the recording off.